Hi there, my name is Sophia Brito, and today we'll be going over prohibited, unallowable, and allowable activities. Reminder that AmeriCorps is federally funded and has historically benefited from bipartisan support. We have these rules to make sure we can continue to get funding to support our communities. There are several prohibited and unallowable activities you must be aware of as a member to help make that happen. Today, we have 3 learning objectives. Number 1, understand what AmeriCorps' prohibited, unallowable, and allowable activities are. Number 2, understand why these rules are in place. And number 3, understand what will happen if these rules aren't followed. First, we'll start with prohibited activities. Under no circumstances should you do these while on AmeriCorps time. Prohibited activities include attempting to influence legislation, organizing or engaging in protests, petitions, boycotts, or strikes, assisting, promoting, or deterring union organizing, impairing existing contracts for services or collective bargaining agreements, or engaging in partisan political activities or other activities designed to influence the outcome of an election to any public office. This slide goes into more detail about what those prohibited activities include. I'm not going to read all of this, but I encourage you to pause the PowerPoint whenever there's a lot of text on the screen like this, so you can truly understand what these prohibited activities are and what they include. Members cannot participate in or endorse events or activities that are likely to include advocacy for or against political parties, platforms, candidates, proposed legislation, or elected officials. Once again, you cannot organize or engage in protests, petitions, boycotts, or strikes. And members cannot engage in any sort of religious instruction, worship services, nor can they construct, operate, or maintain those facilities devoted to religious instruction or worship services. They cannot engage in any form of religious proselytization either. Other prohibited activities are providing a direct benefit to a business organized for profit, a labor union, or a partisan political organization. That includes a nonprofit organization failing to comply with restrictions in the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 related to engaging in political activities or a substantial amount of lobbying. This goes into more detail in our Code of Federal Regulations. You also cannot conduct a voter registration drive or use AmeriCorps funds to conduct a voter registration drive. Members cannot provide abortion services or referrals to receive such services, and any other activities that the AmeriCorps agency may prohibit in the future. These are prohibited activities that are terms and conditions specific. In addition to previously listed activities, the below activities are additionally prohibited. And once again, I will summarize these, so please pause and read to get more details about what these activities include. Members cannot engage in census activities during service hours. If you would like to engage in census activities and aid in the census on your own time, you're more than welcome to. They also cannot engage in election and polling activities during their service, or engage in support of such activities. Reminder, as I said earlier, you can do these activities in your personal time, but not while you're wearing AmeriCorps gear or during your service hours. Next, we'll cover unallowable activities, starting with non-duplication. Corporation assistants or AmeriCorps members may not be used to duplicate an activity that is already available in the locality of the program. What that basically means is that a member's role cannot be the same as an existing role within the program they are serving at. A member may not perform any services or duties or engage in activities that will supplant the hiring of employed workers. Our members cannot hire people. Or our services, duties, or activities with respect to which an individual has recall rights pursuant to collective bargaining agreement or applicable personnel procedures. To go into more detail about what non-duplication means, these are some examples. A member may not perform services or duties that have been performed by or were assigned to any presently employed worker, an employee who has recently resigned or discharged, an employee who is subject who is subject to a reduction in force or who has recall rights pursuant to collective bargaining agreement or applicable personnel procedures, an employee who is on leave, or an employee who is on strike or being locked out. As I said before, a member's role is not meant to replace an already existing role. Next up, we'll finally cover allowable activities. We'll talk about activities that are allowed while you are serving as an AmeriCorps member. With the WT-AMU AmeriCorps grant, AmeriCorps members may perform direct service or capacity building. We may have covered this in your interview, so you may be familiar with these words. I'll let you read the definitions. Reminder to pause the screen if you would like to read more or if you would like to review some content. First, we'll talk about direct service. Direct service activities that members can perform are meant to advance the goals of the program and will result in a specific identifiable service or improvement that would otherwise not be provided. They are included in or consistent with the approved grant application. Activities must address local environmental, educational, public safety, health, or other approved needs. Reminder that our mission is to augment existing systems, fill gaps, and help build a more supportive and resilient environment through opportunity, engagement, and investment, where all people thrive in sustainable careers and communities. These are some examples of what direct service could be. It's included but not limited to the following. I'll let you read it, but like we said in your interview, it's more of the boots on the ground, hands-on work. Next up is capacity building. Capacity building activities that members can perform should enhance the mission, strategy, skills, and culture, as well as systems, infrastructure, and human resources of an organization that is meeting pressing, unmet community needs. They help an organization gain greater independence and sustainability. These are some capacity building examples. This is the more behind-the-scenes work, where instead of volunteering at a food bank, you might be helping them organize a volunteer schedule. Some of you may be wondering if fundraising is allowed, which is a fair question to ask. To keep things simple though, per our program policy, pre-approval is required by program staff before you engage in any sort of fundraising activity. This can be as simple as sending us an email, giving us a call, or stopping by our office to ask if an activity you're about to do is allowed or not. Now, why we have all these rules are, as I mentioned before, AmeriCorps is federally funded and has historically benefited from bipartisan support. By avoiding potentially controversial situations, we can continue to get federal funding and support the communities we serve in. Additionally, when people realize or know AmeriCorps is federal and state funded, they relate to the program as seeing their tax dollars put to good use. We want our community to be proud of the members that are serving there, so there are higher expectations while you wear your AmeriCorps A. Some of you may be wondering what's at risk here, which is a fair question to ask. When you engage in prohibited or unallowable activities while you're serving, though, you risk your hours and you risk the future of the program. Prohibited or unallowable activities may risk your hours not being counted towards your service. You also risk being suspended or released from service for not completing those hours needed to receive your education award. Reminder that that award is only offered to members who successfully complete their service term. WT AmeriCorps relies on the backing of the Texas State Service Commission, AmeriCorps, the federal agency, and community members. If any of those groups lose faith in us, we could lose funding, have a hard time finding partner organizations, lose support, and risk not being able to meet community needs anymore. If you ever feel like you're being asked to do something you shouldn't do while you're serving on AmeriCorps time, reach out to program staff and we'll talk things through with you. We want you to be successful in your time as a member. You can also look up the Code of Federal Regulations regarding our prohibited, allowable, and unallowable activities. If you're ever not sure, just ask yourself, what would people think if they saw me doing this? Who benefits from this task? Would this be replacing a staff member? And am I being treated as additional administrative staff? Once again, reach out to us if you have any questions.